Hello again. In the previous three videos, I have covered the inappropriateness of the FCA's time zero approach and how this harms the victims of financial scandals. In this video, I will focus on the other key pillar of the regulator-prosecutor model, that being Prejudice the Investigation, and how this also harms the victims of financial scandals. When I look at things, I use what I would term a Socratic model. I question everything. So if somebody tells me this is the way things are, this is the way they will be, this is the way they should be, have always been, I ask why, and I probe and I try to understand who benefits from these structures. And that's just my way of thinking, for better or worse. Essentially, this investigation is an investigation into the potential wrongdoing of John Dance and Wealth Tech. I would again remind people that these are allegations at this point. Nothing has been proven. In nearly 25 years of experience, I am unaware of any meaningful excuses for the misuse of client assets. Remember again, these are allegations. Therefore, regardless of whether the FCA were on point or not, there would be no excuse whatsoever for the misuse of client assets, should such be proven. Let's now look at the impact of this commingling, which is termed Prejudice the Investigation. What I mean here is we cannot discuss the failings because there is an ongoing investigation. I'll refer back to Charlotte Gifford's Telegraph article. There's no relationship between me and the Telegraph. I'm not plugging anything. It's just a useful reference point. The article correctly highlights that many of the victims of the wealth tech scandal are vulnerable clients. In their wider work, the FCA have rightly focused on improving safeguarding of vulnerable clients. That's good work. Prejudice the Investigation benefits the regulator-prosecutor model as it uses time to amortize the opportunities for accountability and the ability to help the victims of financial scandals. Essentially, it compounds their distress. Let's not forget that many of these are very elderly people. Here we could have a situation where Prejudice the Investigation becomes Prejudice the Case. Should there be one, this would extend the situation much further into the future. In my experience of the investigation, and the pace of it, we're often told the investigations into fraud and criminality are very complex. To a certain extent, that's true. In the book, Lost the Races, again, I'm not plugging the book, I'm just referencing it really. I outline that my experiences of the investigation and the pace of it was far from efficient and urgent. I won't expand on that point at this time. If it is argued that Prejudice the Investigation is a legal necessity, then I would contend that the legal system is not on sound moral foundations. There is another aspect to how the FCA uses Prejudice the Investigation. This is as a tool of coercion. This is usually in the form of veiled threats, and again, I do reference some of this in the book Lost the Races, and I also covered it in the book club event I took part in with the Transparency Task Force. I have been subject to a handful of what I perceive to be veiled threats in this respect when I made it clear that I was very unhappy with how the FCA had sought to mislead the public on the expediency of their actions, which I've covered in the earlier videos, and the impact this has had on the victims of the scandal. Interestingly, they also use this alongside the term cooperation with the investigation. I will cover this actually in the next video, so we'll build on this theme. Prejudice the Investigation is prejudice morality. Prejudice morality is inverted morality, and this hurts the victims of financial scandals. Now, before signing off, I will briefly cover the bullet points in the press release of the all-party parliamentary report into the FCA. I believe the full report is out tomorrow. Bear with me, I'm just going to read off another screen and try to address the bullet points in turn. So these are under the banner of key findings. The first one is the FCA is widely seen as incompetent. I think this is a little bit harsh. I don't think they are universally incompetent. I think they do a lot of good work. I think they have a hard job. I think the problems arise, in my opinion, when something goes wrong because of the conflicts within this regulator-prosecutor model, which I've covered throughout these videos and continue to do so. We don't see the humility we need to see when something goes wrong, and I would contend that that compounds the distress of the victims of financial scandals. Its integrity is called into question. Again, I would say there are instances of this, although I wouldn't say this is true in a uniform way. A significant number of respondents believe the FCA sometimes acts in bad faith. I wasn't a respondent to this, by the way, the report, but I would make a similar point. They do act in bad faith on occasion, but not uniformly. Incidentally, I've done quite a bit of work with some research associates I worked with for a long time into the FCA, and we've spoken to former staff members and investigators and things like that. And one phrase that comes up quite often, or came up quite often, is the FCA has been taken over by legal professionals. I think the bad faith comes from this. That's my findings. I can't really go much further into it now. That's for a future date. Its treatment of whistleblowers and their evidence is alarming. Well, I am one, so to a certain extent this is true. I'm not that worried about the treatment to me, because if the FCA wanted to be aggressive against me, then I'm very, very well equipped of that. We've done a lot of research. Shouldn't really go there, but that's up to them. I'm more concerned about the impact it's had on the victims, which I've explained throughout the series of videos. There is a defective organizational culture driven from the top. I want to avoid witch hunts and going after specific people. I know people say I've referenced Neil Ratty and Therese Chambers. I've only done so because I believe they're intelligent, well-qualified, experienced professionals, and the public have a right to deserve better from them. That's my stance, and that's how I would answer that bullet point. Transparency and accountability is lacking. Accountability, definitely. Transparency, I know it's difficult for them. I don't want to go into prejudice in the investigation again, but they do have to be careful, and I appreciate that. The FCA's transformation program has not worked. This is a program they put in place after previous criticisms, I think, relating to London capital finance. I think this is a valid point in my experience, so I would largely uphold that. Now, the next video, I will cover an email the FCA sent to the Transparency Task Force after my book club event, and it ties quite well into this coercion theme that I identified in this video a little earlier, and it'll build on the themes that we've gone through quite nicely. So, bye for now.